Hat, sunglasses, Pepsi, notes, sources, thick skin. Check. You already know. Let's go. Welcome to Gold and Blue today, everybody. This is a college football channel. So if you like college football, hit the like and subscribe button. It's that simple. Also, send gear to represent your team and be a part of my background forever. All you have to do is send it to P.O. Box 360, Liberty, South Carolina 29657. Well, if you didn't see this coming, then you haven't been paying attention to college football. I'm talking about Brian Harsin being fired at Auburn. All I can say is, it's about time. Everybody saw this coming. Even in the offseason, Auburn was literally looking for things to be able to fire Brian Harsin with cause. That way they wouldn't have to pay his buyout. But they couldn't do it, so they had to retain him. And now he's been fired mid-season, and it's been a train wreck at Auburn. Last year they went 6-7. This year they started off 3-5, and it just wasn't looking any better at all. Not to mention the whole mistress thing, where allegedly he had a mistress up there at Boise State, brought her down with him, and hired her on the coaching staff. I don't know how much of that is true and how much of that is false, but it just seems like there's a cloud over Brian Harsin. I really don't understand why they hired Brian Harsin. I mean, he did pretty good at Boise State. Overall, 69-19, 12-2, 9-4, 10-3, 11-3, 10-3, 12-2, and 5-2. So he did good at Boise State. But they just fired a guy in Gus Malzahn that did not have one single losing season at Auburn. Not one. Overall, 68-35, 12-2, 8-5, 7-6, 8-5, 10-4, 8-5, 9-4, 6-4. And now he's coaching at UCF, where he's 9-4 and 6-2. Overall, 15-6. I think Gus Malzahn is a good head coach. It's not just the fact that they hired Brian Harsin, it's who they were replacing. They were replacing a guy who didn't have a losing season while he was the head coach at Auburn. So why Auburn hired Brian Harsin, I have no idea. Boise State was already an established brand whenever Brian Harsin took over. If anything, Brian Harsin might have underachieved over there at Boise State. You know what the funny thing is? The last two coaches at Auburn started their FBS coaching career at Arkansas State. Yeah. The first year of Brian Harsin at Arkansas State, he went 7-5 before he went to Boise State. And with Gus Malzahn, his only year at Arkansas State was 9-3 before he was hired at Auburn. So an interesting connection there. Should we be keeping our eyes on the coach of Arkansas State as far as either an immediate hire or a future hire? Just something to think about, right? So Auburn finally did what they needed to do, and that's fire Brian Harsin. He was nothing more than a nuisance and a pain in a rear end for Auburn. So this is a good fire. They needed to do this. But who are they going to replace Brian Harsin with as far as the head coach goes? Well, there's the list that I presented for West Virginia. You know, Hugh Freeze would be a great hire for Auburn. And I've heard that a lot of Auburn fans do want Hugh Freeze. He was just extended at Liberty, a lot of guaranteed money, and I'm hearing a lot of people saying that he wants to stay at Liberty and build his own little empire. But I've also heard that Hugh Freeze still has the itch to coach in Power 5 football. So that could go in either direction. I think it would be a great hire for Auburn. One thing to keep in mind, whenever Auburn fired Gus Malzahn, they ate a historic buyout, the highest buyout in history. And now they're having to eat another buyout in Brian Harsin. That's not good. So what kind of situation does that put Auburn in as far as financially? I don't know. I know Auburn has a lot of great boosters. I know Auburn has a lot of money, but that is a lot of money you have to eat because number one, you thought the guy was all washed up in Gus Malzahn. I think he's still a good head coach. And number two, just a bad hire in Brian Harsin. So you need to make sure the next hire you have, Auburn, is the right hire. You don't want to end up eating more money for another buyout. Another name worth considering is Tom Herman, although a lot of people are like, no, you need to stay away from him. And maybe in Auburn's case, that might be true because they have some fancy boosters that pull some strings over there, not as much as Texas, but they do pull some strings. And Tom Herman didn't get along with the boosters at Texas. That's the real reason why he got fired. So maybe it's a good idea for Auburn to stay away from Tom Herman. They could also consider Lance Leipold. I mean, he's done great things over there at Kansas. And I do like Lance Leipold's offense, and it would be a great offense at Auburn. They could also consider Matt Campbell, although I don't think they would go in that direction. Even though Matt Campbell has done good at Iowa State, I mean, you got to remember, Iowa State was bottom of the barrel, all-time worst as far as college football before Matt Campbell. So even though he's not made them elite, he's brought them out of the gutter. I don't think Auburn would consider him. It's these last three names that really pique my interest. The first name, you're probably going to say, there is no way. What about Josh Heupal over at Tennessee? Can Auburn have some competitive money for Josh Heupal, buy his contract out, and offer him enough money to where he would jump ship over to Auburn? And I think they could see that would be a home run hire. I mean, look at what he's done at Tennessee. And on top of that, would Josh Heupal be willing to do that? Jump a program that he's rebuilding, and they're already playoff contenders, to go to another program and try to rebuild that program and make them into a playoff contender? I don't know, but it's at least worth pursuing. I think Auburn should at least give it a shot. The next name is Luke Fickell. Ah, yes, a lot of West Virginia fans are like, why don't we go after Luke Fickell? Well, we did whenever we tried to go after Neil Brown. Luke Fickell does not want to go to West Virginia, but maybe Luke Fickell would want to go to Auburn. The money would be right. I know a lot of people say that his dream job is Ohio State. Well, Ryan Day's not going anywhere anytime soon. Ryan Day has Ohio State humming. So that's out of the question for right now. Is he going to stay at Cincinnati, hoping to have the patience of Job? Maybe 5-10 years from now it'll open up and then he can move on to Ohio State? I don't know. But I think Auburn should at least try to get Luke Fickell. That would be a great hire. Luke Fickell is a great coach. And I do think Luke Fickell would be able to turn Auburn around in a short amount of time. And that's exactly what Auburn wants. And then there's the last name. And I'm hearing a lot of buzz around this name recently. And that's Lane Kiffin from Ole Miss. Uh-oh. I just made Ole Miss fans a little bit nervous. Because let's face it, Lane Kiffin is not exactly loyal. He has jumped from school to school to school to school to school. He's either succeeded or failed, jumped because of his success, got fired because of his failure. But the bottom line is the dude is not loyal. So Ole Miss needs to be on their guard. And you better believe that Auburn would be smiling if they were able to get Lane Kiffin. And yes, he would be a great hire. And yes, I think he could turn Auburn around in a short amount of time. So I'm serious, Ole Miss fans. It is very, very possible that Auburn comes and snatches Lane Kiffin from you, and now Ole Miss would be looking for a new head coach. It is very possible. In fact, I think it's likely. I think Lane Kiffin could be the future head coach at Auburn. I'm not trying to rain on your parade, Ole Miss. I know he's done great things over there, although I do think the 2022 team is a little bit overrated. But still, you're doing very, very well under Lane Kiffin. And I think Auburn would be very interested in hiring him and bringing in that offensive firepower that Lane Kiffin always seems to bring. And oh yes, if Lane Kiffin went to Auburn, you would most definitely need to bring the popcorn. I think that would spice up the Auburn-Alabama rivalry. Not that it needs spicing up, but man, that's lighting a match to a stick of dynamite. That rivalry would go through the roof. So y'all let me know in the comments section, which one of these coaches do you think Auburn goes after? Or maybe it's a coach or a name that I haven't mentioned. Who do you think Auburn lands as their new head coach? That's all I got for this show. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on my next show.